Okay, this is saying stream is going live, but I'm not seeing it. I don't know why YouTube always is such a pain in my ass when trying to stream. It just never wants to let me just go live, you know? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Once I know that this is live, I will actually start talking and doing some stuff here. I think it's working now, but it's really hard to tell. Oh, there we go. Nice. Okay, cool. Oh. Oh. Very weird. It only captured that last little bit, but I think everything else should be working now if I keep talking. It only captured that. Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, so what I have been working on, I've been doing so much procedural house generating stuff as of late, and I've been really trying to figure out like a really good format to generate buildings and generate like what is it, like different generating buildings with like floor plans. So like generating rooms that can have different contents and generating like more logical connections between those things. And from what I've looked into online, there's a whole lot of different like thoughts on fully procedurally generating buildings. And most of the time, it seems like people say it is not worth the effort to go through to try and do a lot of like full procedural generation. It's literally like such a high barrier to entry in terms of the amount of rules and conditions to make realistic seeming buildings that aren't really samey, that most people seem like they just don't do it, or they do like pre-made buildings or very simplified types of generation. And I've had some pretty promising results from like a couple different methods I've been trying. Let me see if any of this will generate properly. Yeah, so this first, let's ignore for first of all the extra doors on the outside. What I mostly want to take a look at and kind of show off here is the room generation stuff that I have going on. Visualize room numbers. There we go. So you can see here, I'm generating rooms is all using PCG graph by itself. I'm generating rooms on a grid, and those rooms are labeled and have individual attributes for their like, you know, room 0, room 1, room 2 over here, which is pretty cool. And this has been pretty promising, like a pretty promising start for me, which is like generate a room of a certain size and then go and pick a point on the outside of that and generate another room attached to it. And then I go through all of those rooms and I find all of the points that are like if this white square here, this is room 0, I go around the edges of room 0 and I find all the points that it is touching that are a different room. So like this whole side, if there were grid points out here, would be empty. There'd be no rooms touching. But then you get up here and you can see, oh, I don't know why sometimes the debug visualizers keep turning off in PCG lately. But you can see room 4 is connected to room 0 or touching in a way that would be a possible doorway or a possible way to go through. Room 2 has walls that would be touching room 0. Room 3 does not, because they're diagonally up here, and then room 1 is also touching 0. So The kind of way that I was generating these rooms, though, this seems pretty reasonable, but I think I might be able to get to an edge case or two that you'll see can be a little bit broken and kind of wonky looking. I'm going to take out some of the wall generation for now and the door generation. That should make this a little easier to look at. I've had this trouble that is the way I'm generating rooms can actually result in free floating pieces of rooms. So right now, the basic idea is that I generate a grid for one room, and then I pick a point next to it, and then I just build a box of a certain size. But subsequent room creations don't look at anything to do with what new rooms have been created. So you end up in this situation where we have built room 0 first, then it looks like it built room 1 over here, then room 2 is over here, right? And the rooms always build out, like they expand from a center point. So you can see that room 1 here would have been starting at of course, it's fucking invisible. Let me disable that. Room 1 would have been starting at this tile here because it expanded outwards from there. But the problem with that is that room 2, you can see, expanded outwards from this point here. And then when it went to generate room 3, it expanded outwards from this point. And then when it picked room 4, what it looks like to me is what it did is generated from seemingly room 2's right side here, or maybe even right here. And it expanded, and as it expanded, you can see it kind of just created this weird little hallway room here. And then room 5, basically the rooms take priority in the order they're created. So like room 1 will always be a full room. If room 2 tried to generate over the top of it, room 2 would get cut out. I hope that makes some kind of sense. But because I'm not like growing the room, I'm just selecting some arbitrary amount of points. Let me see if I can get a generation that gets me like a little free floating tile. It's pretty rare. I put in a lot of conditions to make sure that it pretty much never generated something that was like impossible. But occasionally I was finding, I think I actually did put in a rule that, oh, that was really close. So this is pretty close to it. Is this little room 4 point here is kind of not how I'd like to ever generate any room. It looks like it tried to select either a room 1 point here or a room 2 point or something and generate out. And I think it was probably selecting this corner room 1 point just next to room 3 here. And it seems like what that kind of results in is sometimes you get these really tiny rooms that don't make a lot of sense. And because I'm just purely randomly selecting some amount of room, some amount of grid space, I'm just kind of going, generate me a number between 3 and 5. All right, make a room and select some grid points that might align with that. I end up with a lot of weird edge cases that just don't look that good. Like maybe if I was generating and if I happen to have a 1-room tile or a 1-tile room, I just call that a closet or something, but I want to have a little bit more control over that. I don't want it to be left purely up to random chance whether or not I end up with like 5 or 6 closet rooms versus like only generate a closet room attached to a bedroom or something maybe. So I had been doing this purely by generating a size room with a grid exactly up to that size, and then I pick a point, generate another grid of some size. If they overlap at all, remove all the new generated overlapping points, and then whatever's left is that room. So technically I could also, I believe, end up with room generation that may not actually end up generating a tile at all for a room. Like it could end up going room 0 is this big, room 1 is this big, and then if room 4 it generated off this let's say it picked for room 4, it picked this starting point and it didn't expand out enough, it could just not generate, and then room 5 would be somewhere else potentially, and that would lead to weird edge cases with logic in the future where I'm trying to connect rooms based on their order or something, and then that leaves me with like a, oh no, I can't actually get to that room, or it doesn't actually have any viable tiles that never, it was never generated at all. So I spent a little bit of time trying to think about how I could maybe avoid that and fix it. And let me see if I can go. Oh, perfect. I just happen to have this file pulled up on my phone's photos. I was gone last week, traveling, doing some video work, and I was trying to figure out, knowing that I'm doing grid-based building generation specifically, kind of gave me this like, oh, I could actually try and visualize a lot of the generation stuff by doing pixel art animations and like frame by frame, each step of that generation, what should that look like? And so let me drag this over to my main monitor here. This is kind of what I'm having in mind for this new building generation here. So you can see I pick a point, it expands. I pick a point near that, it expands. I pick a point near those, you know, just in an area. But overall, the idea being that I could, in theory, with this, just generate, instead of a grid per room like I'm doing now, what I should be doing and could be doing is generating one gigantic grid and then building within that area that I decide is like the total area allowed to be a building or something. So if I turn off all that, we don't need to look at any of that shit. And then I go and visualize. Oh boy, that's pretty gross to look at. Let me turn those off. And then let's go try and go like this. And let's just say visualize grid. And go like that. Okay, and now let's make this not red so this doesn't hurt my eyes as much. Oh, Jesus. It hurts my eyes at like any color that it is. Okay, maybe if I get way over the top of this. Holy Lord. Okay, let me just not enable that for a moment. So I've been in trying to figure out how to do this kind of like generation stuff. I kind of came up with a new idea that was to use the way that you can add attributes to points in PCG kind of is like if you treat every point like a tile, and what could a tile have on it? What type of, could it be an indoor tile or an outdoor tile? Well, that would be like a Boolean flag or something. Could it be room 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Well, I could add a room attribute to a given tile, and that would be able to then be checked later if I'm correctly, if I'm doing something between two different rooms, I can just check their room attribute, like just like a basic int attribute. So the first thing that I noticed when I was trying to do any of this stuff is that the create points grid functionality is pretty terrible, in my opinion, for doing any kind of actual grid-based generation of any sort. So let me see. Why is that not generating me anything? Let's see. I should be getting something here, right? Oh, it's because it's generating globally. Okay, so there's a couple problems that I found with the points grid. The first problem I found is the order, or the way that it generates the points grid is always out from the center. So if I were to want to make a building, I would need to basically have an idea of where the center of that building would go. and then shift the entire grid out some distance from that. Oh, let's not do up here. Let's do there we go. Right? So if this is the size that I wanted to make this building, I would not actually be building this like, let me try and get a couple more things here to kind of draw out a little bit of the example of what I'm talking about here. Like, let's say that this box right here, right? This is a procedurally generated street, right? We've got a nice long street, and then we've got, let's see, can I do a little, like a crossroad over here, and we've got another crossroads over here, right? So if I'm procedurally generating some kind of world here, and I've generated, I would imagine, the roads for my map first, and then I'm trying to fill in some city areas and go, oh, I need to put in a building here. This is like a viable building area. If this building area is not on a grid and it's, you know, some organic shape, you know, a little like cockeyed in different directions, and then, you know, maybe this is a little closer over here. In order to fit a building in here with just using the create points grid, right? If I'm just using, strictly speaking, the points grid, I end up with this weird problem that, to me at least, is a problem, which is, okay, if I know I want to fit one house somewhere along this street segment, and I want it to be on the right side of the street somewhere over here, well, I know where the street segment starts, or like where the street segment is, but if I were to try and just push out some amount, I have to like do some odd math to kind of figure out where the building, how far back it should sit based on how big the building is going to be. Like if I decided, oh, well, I don't want the building to actually be like this massive chunk of land here. I actually want the building to be like, let's say this big. I now have to like do some more math to figure out, okay, well, it can't go that far back. I need to actually move it closer so that the front door can be somewhere over here by the street, which is not a big problem, but something that feels a little bit more intuitive to me maybe, is that if I know that I'm going to generate a point, like if I have a street here and I know that I want to put a house or a building right up to the road, with not like some amount of what is it, with like no front yard, it's just like we're gonna have street and then sidewalk and then here's the house, then in that case I would just want to use like the gizmo kind of here as the point where the front door should go, and the rest of the building should build out and expand like further away from the road. If I think about any building, whether that's like on a court or it's on the side of the road, or even a dirt trail out in the woods, you would never really want the building to expand from the road in all directions. You would basically want the road to be the front, and then everything else goes back. So the first thing that I noticed with points grid was that it's like a very strange, it's strange to me that it only ever generates like fully expanding in all directions. I just kind of didn't like that because that adds a lot of complication. But then also, let me see if I go to here and we do visualize attributes, and then I visualize, let's say, index here. What is the order exactly to any of these points? You know, can you tell me how I'm supposed to know? So like obviously we have 0 up at the top right, and it comes down 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, then going down 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15, you know, 0 to 63. Like we have a grid here, but that doesn't lend itself to doing any kind of grid-based, coordinate-based logic, whether that's, oh, I need to pathfind through the grid to figure out where something should go, or I need to get only the perimeter tiles, or I need to get the centermost tile, whatever that might be. The way that it generates grids and their index doesn't really actually lend itself towards that very well. So there was a couple problems with just using the create points grid that I really didn't like, that I wanted to solve. So I came up with a different little system here, which is I've been using this little acronym for all of the tools that I'm making, SMRT, a little smart grid. And basically what this is doing that I think is pretty useful and a little unique here is, first of all, it generates out from that center point. And so we have a grid, and it's just as simple as it was before, of just dragging in, setting some kind of value here, whatever it might be. But you can see that it always expands from the front door back, right? So if I go, I want a building that's 85 units deep, it totally does that, and it expands back out and away from the road. Now, if I want it to be 25 units wide, you notice it expands out both ways, and it always tries to stay reasonably centered, and you can see it alternating as I make it smaller and smaller here, and that's because it's always just trying to snap the grid to like a tile, basically, where a tile for the floor would go at some point. So it has this really nice feel that's like very intuitive to, like, oh, I want to place a building here. Well, the front door goes here. Let me figure out where the rest of that building then should go. All right, we'll make it that big. We'll make it fucking 6 units deep. And it feels a little bit more intuitive for creating buildings. But another thing I did here that I think is pretty unique that you can do with the attribute system is I added a vector2 attribute to the smart grid that allows me to check a grid XY coordinate with the start of the grid being 1, 1 in the bottom left, and the end of the grid being like X, Y, whatever, like the size of the grid is. So if I turn on visualize attributes here, you can see here we have grid X1, grid X2, grid X3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then if I turn on this one, you see we have grid Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, Y5, Y6. So now I have like actual XY coordinates for all of my grid, no matter what size it is. And I know it's kind of gross to look at it in this capacity because it's fucking overlapping in a really weird way. But basically now I can do all kinds of different stuff, which is like get the centermost point here if I disable that. Or let's make this maybe let's just do like 0.25, right? So I can get the center of that grid, or what would be the center if there was one. This is one tile off because it's even numbers, so there isn't like a true center of that. But if I make my grid, let's say 9 by 7, that will always be the centermost point of that grid. If I want to get a specific coordinate of some kind, let me see here. Let's go get a oh, I don't have that one actually available here. Select coordinate. So all I have to do now is go feed in my grid and then say, let's add a let's see, that's the center point. We'll use that for the debug. I think that's a nice one. Kind of just illustrate what I'm doing here. So we've got 0.1 comma 1, and then we can go 0.2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can go up to 0.7 up there. So it's a really, really convenient way to like now do like grid-based math and operations, and be able to select certain ranges. Doing box selections and stuff now is super easy to like generate a room, to do any kind of coordinate grid-based math, is just like super, super easy. And it's not using like relative transforms or the way that I was handling a lot of this stuff before, when having to select different tiles was checking if tiles would overlap other tiles. But the like local grid coordinates that are just specific to their literal like tile grid location and have nothing to do with like if this building was up in the air and rotated or anything, the coordinate system for the grid is always going to work just the same and be able to check whether or not tiles are existing at that point, or if a tile shouldn't be used for something. I can just go check its grid coordinate, and then I can add other attributes like the room number, or whether it's indoors or outdoors, or whether it's adjacent or a connecting tile and stuff like that. So this is kind of this new direction I've been going in, that is, I think, going to be really, really cool for doing grid-based building generation here. So I've just started getting the grid coordinate system stuff working, and so now I'm going to slowly start making my way to doing some of this stuff, which is making looping subgraphs that can expand out from one point and selecting a bigger and bigger range around it. So that's kind of the basic idea. I think I've seen a lot of people saying that PCG shouldn't be used for building or architectural generation, and a lot of the tutorials and stuff I've seen around PCG and using it for building and architecture stuff kind of end up using PCG with splines and manually building stuff a lot. That just seems like kind of the wrong way to go about it. Like, if you still have to, I mean, I guess just depending on your building, I'm looking for very, very square, rectangular, blocky style buildings and porches and stuff like that. So this is really perfect for my use case. And I think a lot of people are maybe underestimating how easy it is to add attributes to PCG component stuff or PCG points, and then be able to check those later. So like if I look at my generated smart grid here, and I go and check out my attributes, you can see I have a grid X, grid Y, and a grid Z position. And so eventually this is going to get turned into a three-dimensional grid of points that I can then check in all directions and do all kinds of other interesting things with multiple floors and stuff like that. But for right now, I'm just working on the floor plan generation stuff, and I think we're getting pretty close to doing some cool stuff. And you can see I also have this blank tile type over here that is a string attribute that I've added that I'm not using yet, but I have a feeling I'm going to use something like that, or other attributes maybe to do some other kinds of checks, which is like if I need to check, has a, is this tile a doorway entrance in between two rooms? If so, we can't put anything there. This tile is occupied. So anyways, I think that pretty much catches anyone who gives a shit up to speed on what I'm doing here and what I'm kind of trying to attempt with all of this stuff. So now what was the last thing I had going on? I was working on this little range selector. which is also going to be a very useful little tool. So this tool I have, let me disable that. This tool I have here, which is the select smart grid coordinate, basically lets me select a single point, which is useful if I need to check that certain specific point. But if I'm going to do stuff with room generation, I need to be able to select a range of points. So I've just made the first little guy here, which is a range selector that generates me based on a given range on the X, Y, or Z axis here. So pretty neato, useful. But I also am going to have to figure out how to make, right now, this is doing like the entire grid. If I want to think about the smart grid as like the global smart grid coordinates being 1, 1 to X, Y, whatever that farthest top right corner is, this will always select off of that. But I am going to eventually here, hopefully in like the next hour, do something where I feed in a starting point with that other guy there. Where was that? Select smart grid coordinate, right? Where I want to be able to feed in a starting coordinate here, like that one, and then I want to select a range around that. So the first thing I need to do though is this is selecting a range, which is, let's say min 0, we'll go 1, 1, 1, 3, something like that. So let me go minimum 1, maximum 3. Just change those defaults a little bit there. I was using these to visualize earlier, which don't know if it's the best for visualizing, but it definitely works. And I hope if you're watching, you can kind of see how this is going to be pretty useful, pretty fast in generating any kind of grid layout type of deal. Like this is so effective so quickly, and I think I can go Y. Yeah, perfect. So now I can combine 2 of these, I believe, and I should be able to select a range and then go like that, like this. And if I put 2 of them here, now what I think I can do is change this to an X, and I can select a box range that is on this grid, which is really fucking cool. Oh, but those are actually doing the same thing there. That's interesting. What is that? That's something a little funky there. Oh, I think we got a crash. No? Oh no, we got a crash for sure. Yeah. All right. It's chill. Okay, while that boots up, I'll be right back. Oh yeah, we're back. Okay. Let's see here. So we've got a range selector going one way and then another range selector going the other way. And we've got our axis here. X. Min, max. Okay. Let's get rid of smart grid. I don't need the direction one. Don't need to assign coordinates or duplicate or assign. Get the center. That's selecting a coordinate. Okay. So let me get back to this guy again real quick. And we've got our range. Okay. 2 by 8, let's say. And if I change this to a Y, and let's make this a 5. Let's do 3 by 5. There we go. Okay. And then let me make this also a 7. Just so that way this feels a little bit nicer and more symmetrical when I'm doing some stuff here. And then also let's rename inside filter to outside filter. Okay. And then go like that. And now we change this to a Y. There we go. Okay, so that is working the way it should be. 2, and then we go 6. Cool. Okay. So something I've been having a little bit of trouble trying to wrap my brain around how I wanted to handle is specifically the room growth logic. If let me go pull up that little animation. If I want to do something very similar to the way that this works, then if I only ever expand out from the center evenly in all directions, then what I end up with is rooms that can only be odd number intervals big. 1 by 1, 3 by 3, 5 by 5. But there's maybe another way I could look into expanding some of these. Which I'm not exactly sure. Let me pull up like I need like a little painting toolbox here, but I need like actual pixel art. Maybe Pixel Bash will be good enough for me to try and draw out what I'm thinking in my head here. Okay. So okay, way too big. Now, can I do I not like have a, I know that this is not meant to just be a pixel art drawing tool, but I could have sworn that there was like a basic brush. Yeah, because this is just not gonna be great for Okay, let me exit this guy. Let's go to good old Photoshop. Okay, and let's just make this 32 by 32. Okay. Now, here we go. That's probably even too big of a grid for what I need right now for my purposes, but whatever. Okay, let me grab a pencil. There we go. Okay. So if I want to think about this a little differently, maybe, is I've got my grid here, right? And if I pick a point and then want to grow that room, if I grow it in all directions at the same time, like I was saying, I end up with a 3x3 or a 5x5, which could maybe be fine, but that seems like not a lot of control there. Whereas if I generated this grid in the similar way to how I'm generating the main grid, then I would want to expand out, and then so like I pick a point at the front here, I expand out 1 because it's a 1x1, and then I would go because I'm trying to think if I would like to ideally use the same kind of expansion growth room, like growth code for the first room as I would any of the other subsequent rooms, just so I don't have multiple things, what's the word I'm looking for? Types of generators for no reason. Like ultimately it would be very similar looking code, but if I expand out and just did it the way I'm making this grid, then I would kind of end up with this weird, like I'm only generating depth-wise and then to the right, which I don't necessarily like the idea of doing that, because then I would end up, when wanting to make subsequent rooms, right? Like if I wanted to make a room, let me change the color here. If I wanted to make a room where, let's say it expands out this way, and like this is the main direction, like the new further expanding that room, then I would only ever end up generating rooms this way and down this way, you know, like you got to kind of think like, you know, if north is now this way, we've rotated the grid to pick a point. Actually, this is probably a better way to, god damn, dude. Photoshop, please. Okay, so if I do, let's do a quick, like, god damn, bro. Why is this making this so difficult? Please, for the love of God. Okay, so right now I generate this big grid, and let me get rid of these fucking I need to not see the yeah, there we go. Sorry, the cactuses were very distracting to me. But like, let's make just an even bigger grid here, right? Or let's do the same size. We'll do 32 by 32. Which is way too fucking big. Like I'm never gonna make a building, as far as I know right now, that would ever even approach this size. My characters fit in a doorway that would go in one tile here. So like this is more massive than I could ever imagine making a building, but just for the sake of making this Photoshop a little bit easier to look at, and I'll also move these points not inside of that other building shit. Okay. So right now we're looking at these two grids pretty much aligned in the same way. And if I were to, can I change this to a pencil? Very good. We'll do 1 as well. Great. And then let's actually make a red. So we've got our x-axis here, and then we've got our y-axis here. Ooh. And let me, can any of those overlay well? No, whatever. Who cares? So those are our little guides. And now, if I want to start generating buildings, and I build that in the same way I'm building this grid, I need to essentially do like flood fills over and over again to a certain size. So if I wanted to make a building right now, my characters can walk into a 1x1 square like this. Like this is big enough to have a door and 3 walls on it. Like that would be like the size of a closet or like a porta potty or something. So if I think about that and generating more stuff here, then that means that if I build something like this, a 1x1 room or a 1x1 building, that I can't actually place anything in a 1x1 room because the door comes in and then whatever goes in here can at most be like a toilet or like a shelf or something. It can't really take up the entire room because a player needs to go in there, and also the door needs to not be blocked. Like in the case of having a, say a bigger building, like if I say I'm making like a bedroom right now, right? And let's say we'll use blue as the doorway, right? So my entrance is coming from, this is outside, and then the doorway is on the divider here, and then we step inside. I would never want to place anything on that door slot, because that would block the player from ever being able to leave or enter this room if that's the only door that's generated. So then I end up with a weird problem here, which is that if I want to generate rooms here and I decide, let me do, why is that generating at such a weird opacity? Okay. What is that color picking from? Why is that not? It's making it so difficult to work quickly because my fucking tools. Oh, 3x3 average point sample, dude. That's still not working. What? What? All layers, point sample. Okay. Okay. Okay, that should be fine. Okay, so I pick my first point here and decide, all right, I'm making a building and it's got to expand up and back from here, right? So if I come down here and I go, here's the entrance of our building. That's the first tile we place. And I want to expand. The easiest way I can think of to expand is to just go, up a tile and then duplicate those tiles to the right, essentially, or expand that grid range up and to the right at all times. Basically, just add values. You get bigger and bigger rooms like this. But the problem, I think, here is that when I decide to go, okay, I've made my main room and I want to make a room that builds off the side of this, right? It doesn't really feel like a problem if the size of my second room that I decide to generate is, let's say, just a 1x1 or a 1x2 or a 1x3 even. Like, this can pretty much go in any of these. It could start at that first tile, I could select this tile and I could build up and out and up and out and up and out, and this room could get just as big as the first one, whatever it might be. But it presents an interesting problem if I go to the other side, because now if I try and expand, and let's say I pick this edge tile and I expand up and out, that means I'm expanding past where the front wall or like the street coordinates basically would be. So it kind of puts me in a weird spot. I can't necessarily just use adding to the X and Y axes as like a good way of expanding that room, or even like relative to it. It kind of needs to be something slightly more intelligent here, which would, to me, my first thought would be, I generate my entrance, and then I generate the first tile back past it, and then I pick a direction. It could be left or right, doesn't really matter. And I go, okay, we're going to expand out to the right, right? We're going to kind of flood fill out to the right, and we're going to flood fill then, if I want it to keep getting bigger, out to the left, and then we're going to flood fill up, and we're going to flood fill up, and that also ends up being weird because I still end up only generating odd sized room numbers that way if I do it evenly to both sides. But it almost feels like I need to go I need to pick a direction, which would be primarily going out and away from us. And then I would need to pick a side, left or right. And I would generate here and say that's a part of the room now. And then I would fill in that diagonal. And now I can say, okay, pick a direction to expand in, which can only be up, left, or right. And if it's up, then I go and check these two tiles and try and fill them in. And if it's left, I check these two tiles. And if it's right, I check these two tiles. So I could end up generating stuff like that by, it's like a mixture of like the drunk walking algorithm, whatever it is. I can't remember exactly what the logic of like the drunk walking thing is, but it's like you generate rooms and pathways that are it's used for like maybe dungeon crawlers and stuff, where you want to generate like a winding dungeon, but you want it to always be traversable. So you basically generate a path by picking a point, deciding, okay, well, I'm here. It needs to be, I can either go left, I can go right, or I can go up. And it's like, okay, I go left. All right, well, now I can go up, left, or down. Okay, I go down. Okay, well, now I can go left or down because I can't cross back over this. Okay, so I go left. And then, okay, I go left again, up. You basically literally walk out a path, and then you can generate some other interesting little side areas off of that path. But you guarantee in your dungeon generator that you're like ending up with a traversable path for the player. So I feel like it's kind of like a mixture of that I'm looking to do here. It's like not quite a flood fill out, but it is like a, I pick my first starting entrance tile, and then I go, okay, I'm going to select now the I can go left, I can go right, I can go up. I pick one of those directions, and if I go left, then great. If that tile was fillable, then I fill it, and then I go, all right, and now I can go up, and or I can go up again, I can go left again, or I can go right again. And I could also add in some rules so that it couldn't consistently just go, I'm going to pick left, 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 left until that fits. Or until, it runs out of tiles just by random chance generating a room that's like a really long hallway like that. But if I go, something like you can only pick the same direction twice, then that kind of ends up being like, okay, I could go double that way, and then I could expand, and then I could go double that way again, and I have like a slightly longer, interesting room here, or double that way, whatever it might be. But if I do generate stuff like this, that seems like a pretty good way then for coming over here. And let's say I'm picking or going to generate a second room off of this main room. Let me make this a little bit bigger just for that. So I decide, you know what? I'm going to build a room that starts here. And that's going to be our entrance to that room. Make that color just for the sake of clarity here. And then I can go, okay, I now know where I have my entrance. So I can go left, I can go up, or I can go right. And if I choose to go left, I go there. And it's like, okay, what tile is free around me? I can go up, I can go left, or I can go down. And if I chose to go down, I check these. This is one room here, so I check down. This one tries to expand down, but that's already taken by the previous room, so does nothing. Then I can now go left, I can go up, or I can go right. So if I go right, I expand over there. Kind of an odd shape for a room. That's very like hallway-y, wrappy, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing right now. It's still a traversable space, which is fine. And so now I can still go right, I can go up, or I can go left or down. And so if I go up, we expand up over there. Now I pick a side, left, right, up. And let's say I go left, I generate that. Okay, so now I have two rooms. And this may be dumb. I'm mostly just trying to walk through the logic of whether or not this actually would make sense for generating lots and lots of rooms like this. So now if I choose to get a different color here just for the sake of being able to pick another room. So now let's say I decide, oh, you know what? I want to build another room over here. And we expand up, and then it decides to expand right, and then it decides to expand right again, and then it decides to expand up. We end up with this kind of shape. Now, if I decide to generate a room off of one of these rooms, let's say I put it here, and let me get a new color here. And let's say this room decides to expand left, and then it decides to expand down and left again. Now something that might work, something I've been trying to wrap my brain around as well with however I choose to generate all these rooms, is if a certain type of room needs a minimum number of tiles in it for the room to be like a valid type of space, then that would kind of mean in like the expansion flood filly drunk walk room generation, every time it loops to expand in a new direction, it would have to take into account how many tiles have we filled out that are traversable. So like if it went and generated, let's just say it chose to go left twice, down twice, and then it goes, I'm going to generate and go left again, and it generates no new tiles, and this is supposed to be a bedroom that needs a guarantee of at least 5 tiles that are traversable, then I end up with a situation where this chooses to go left, it doesn't work. I have to have some kind of flag that says, hey, we can't go left anymore, so we're not going to account for that in our random chance. So let's try going right. And now that ends up with another weird scenario where, let's say I do have those 5 tiles, and a bed might take up 2 tiles. So I would now be stuck with a situation where this is not a valid tile to place a bed at because that would block the door. But it does technically have space for, it has the minimum tile requirement. And that kind of ends up being maybe a bit of a weird problem as well, where the rooms as they generate would need to know the amount of tiles in them that are not a door and are also connected to X amount of tiles in a row, maybe? If I'm thinking about that right. Because something that needs to get placed on 2 tiles, like a bed going there or going there, needs like a guarantee of space that can fit there, not just a tile here and going, oh, well, we place it there. We picked that tile randomly because it is valid for a room, but it doesn't actually have any space there where it could be placed. I do like the idea. This is because something else that's maybe a little funky about the mixture of like flood, Philly, drunk walk kind of algorithm-y thing is that the room can only get like if I put a new door there and I go to make a room that expands from that section, the room can only ever get more, it can only ever double in size. So it would go 1 to 1, and then minimum tries to go 2 by 2. And then minimum tries to go, well, I guess that's not doubling necessarily, but it only ever doubles by like the perimeter that it's trying to expand. Or not doubles, but yeah. So if I'm, which doesn't matter in a 2 by 2, if I have a 2 by 3 here, and this is a 5 tile room that say needs to be 6 tiles, the first way, the least amount of work that I could do to hit that would be to expand, or like the least amount of extra tiles to consume would be this way, right? So if this pink room needed 6 tiles that were not the door, and we're at 5, I could expand this way, which would make a boxier room, but the cheaper way to do that, that would be like taking up less options from other rooms, right? Even though that, in this case, it's only 1 extra tile, but like, let's say I'm here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I need a room with 10 walkable tiles, and I have 9. If I only want to hit, I want to hit the minimum, so I choose to go up, I've hit the minimum now. I have 11 walkable tiles, but that's building the room in a very strange way. Like it just chooses to make more hallway-like structures. But if I choose to go and expand horizontally, if I only need a minimum of 10 tiles, I've now made a minimum of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 tiles. And that only gets worse the bigger the disparity is between like the two rooms. That it's like I'm either making weirder, longer hallway rooms or much larger than maybe needed boxy rooms, which I think might be a better default, is always try and expand the widest side, or opposite of like what's expanded the most. So if in this case the depth of the room is way bigger than the width of the room, I want to expand the width. So that would always kind of tend towards boxier spaces, which I think is a little bit more natural looking for like a house kind of deal. Now, if I'm looking at a room like this, and it tries to expand to the left, and it can't, then it expands up and decides to expand left again. And let's just say for shits and giggles, it kept expanding left. And then it expands down. And left and down. Oh, this would also expand down there. So depending on the size, oh, this is an interesting, very strange edge case that I'm thinking of now, is if this expanded, let's say, big enough that it could expand down this way, and it goes, yep, expanding down, expanding down, expanding down, expanding down, I'm now in a situation where these tiles would have been expanding down, and I could, or no, that doesn't, it only ever expands down if it's touching that tile. So I think that actually would be, yeah, because it's only ever expanding one row at a time. So these ones are trying to expand down, but can't because they are already occupied by other rooms. So it would never actually be able to expand this way. So in this case, I could have a structure that generated like this, but I would never end up with an intraversable room connection. Even if I generate weird shapes in different kinds of directions, I still end up with pretty structurally sound spaces that never end up having like a weird corner that like it tries to expand down a bunch and like one corner generates here, which is a problem that I do have very rarely with my current room generation stuff. So picking a direction randomly and then expanding that way does seem like that actually would work really effectively for doing like the drunk walk flood fill type of deal. So then let me see. I think there was one other thing I was just thinking of that might cause some strange behavior if I'm not being careful. Which is, yeah, this shape that I just had is, if I'm here and I have a room of this shape, and I'm now looking for a new place to generate a room, that I could end up in a situation where I try to, let me get a new color here. I build a door here, and then I try to expand, and it tries to go up, and it goes, can't go there, tries to go left, can't go there, try to go down, can't go there, tries to go right, goes there, which is not a big deal for what this, if I had no requirement for what this room needed to be, then I just label it a closet or something. But if I needed this house to have another bedroom, and I randomly picked here, that would put me definitely in a weird space where I either have to choose to back out of the loop and not generate there, or I suppose there's also maybe a way that I could look at that kind of a space that doesn't end up working and like fold it into a different room. Or I could even, the room that it was expanding, I could just include it in and not really think of it as a separate space. It just becomes a piece of that room. But that does put me in a really weird spot with generating other spaces. But that's only in the case of generating a room off, or generating a room that's attached to another room. Whereas if I only ever generate, let me get some of these colors back really quick, just so I can, oh, I guess I only have that one. I deleted the other two too early. If I generate stuff only off of the main room first, and go, what are the core rooms that this building needs to have? Okay, it needs 3 bedrooms, and I've generated those. And then we go, okay, we also need a kitchen. So we have to pick either here, or here, or here, here. Any of these rooms, basically, or any of these areas. Probably here, 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 here. Let me make this a slightly different color, because these are like potential rooms, right? This light blue color. So those are potential spaces we could start generating. And then if I pick any of those and go expand, expand down, expand down, expand to the right, expand to the right. That definitely doesn't work if I don't build the front of the building here. Or like the map itself, the grid can't ever start generating further down than there. Like that has to be the front of the building. Is that first row of tiles maybe? So that this can only ever expand out in this case, and then up, or like that. Or if it spawned up here, expanding out and doing stuff like that, maybe. And if it spawned down here, it'd end up with rooms more like this kind of deal. So that would require, though, that these are built. Yeah, like here, like on the actual grid, end of grid line. Otherwise, I end up in a weird spot for sure. But I think like the drunk walk only tries a direction if it can generate a tile that goes there, and then lean towards generating wider primarily first. So if this goes this way, I would then, let's see, I've now, ooh, that's maybe a way to do that as well. When I expand a wall, right? Like if I expand this salmon wall, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I decided to expand it up. and it successfully expands all 5 of these walls up, then I know that what do I know? I know nothing. The versus if so, I decide to expand that up. I have 5 successful expansion tiles versus if I pick here and I tried to expand up, I have 1 successful expansion, which I think in that case, if there's another direction to try, I should try that for the most successful expansion. So like that expands to 3. Okay, well now I am technically wider than I am tall. I'm 4 wide and 3 tall. And the thing I talked about earlier is that I want to try expanding for more boxy rooms. So this would, by default, would want to expand up, which would have a 2-tile expansion versus going wide again and having successfully expanded 4 tiles because these 2 were failed. Okay, I think I've got enough of a start here of like wrapping my brain around how I need to kind of pick directions, try and expand all tiles 1 space forward. If it is a valid tile to expand to, then we go, great. That's now added into our selection. And we have a count of how many tiles are in the room that are not the entrance tile, because that would leave us with a non-furniture placeable tile for like a main room. Okay. I think that makes sense to me right now. Okay, I'm gonna run to the bathroom and then I'm gonna get started actually getting some of this functionality in here. I'll be right back. All right, my little dingle dwarfs. What the fuck is going on? Let's start trying to work on some of this room generation bullshit. First things first. Let's go ahead and we're going to need to I'm gonna rename this from get smart grid center to select smart grid center, and then okay, and then let's go, that can just go under grid. And now let's say select, 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 select. And now let's say first thing we need to do here is come back over to our grid, and let's go with our out here. Give me 2 new pins, and these are going to be attribute sets. And we'll call this one depth, and then we'll say do not allow multiple connections, not multiple data, and this one is going to be width, and I'm gonna reorder those. Get width, punch that out, get depth, and that. Okay, now let's delete that for now as well. And I don't need the directional thing yet, but I'll keep it up here just so I don't forget that I have it. Okay, turn that off, and then let's say select smart grid coordinate, and we'll go oh, can this just connect right to there and give me the same? Cool, I don't need that merge, that was an extra one, little extra mergey merge. So let's put some of this down here. Now let's do width divided by create width divided by 2, make it an integer just so that way this ends up being on a actual grid aligned point, I think. We'll feed our grid into there, and the width is the x-axis here. And let me just get a little debug on that, make sure I'm okay. What's coming out of this is probably just needing to be rounded, I think. No? Width is 16. What's the size of our, oh, it's just, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I understand. I was being a little dumb, not gonna lie. So my grid is just an even number of tiles, so let me just go 31 by 31, just so that way I can have that should be giving me divide it by 2. Ooh. Oh, maybe if I go, I wonder if I can just round down, if that's a thing. Hmm. Oh, maybe it's just I'm looking for like a truncate because I just need. Yeah. That's what I need. Oh no, it's not. It is. It is round. There we go. Okay, cool. So we have our center tile on the bottom here. Now, what do I need to do? We need to, from this tile, we have our grid XY coordinate, which should be 16 and 1. And we need to expand left, up, right, or down. So I need a let me see, create a random number. This is a pretty neat little subgraph I've made that's kind of useful for this kind of stuff. As I started doing a lot of grid-based operations with PCG, I realized that instead of every time I wanted to do like math kind of stuff or needing to do like a randomized value, I created just by itself this little PCG graph that basically generates noise from a min to a max value that I feed into it. It creates a blank float attribute, and then it can also round it to an int. So if I need to create a grid or a grid of a certain random size, I can seed it with a point so that it stays deterministic, but I can also mutate that seed if needed, so that way I could do 1 point generates a whole lot of random numbers, or in this case, I need a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I should go. Now that's, yeah, actually, how does this make sense to do? Because I've got to pick a random direction, which could be going up, left, or right. And my first thought was to generate an int between 0 and 4, 0 being up, 1 being right, 2 being back, and I guess 3 would be left. But I'm not sure that actually makes sense as a good way to do that. But let's go with that for now. Just generate a random number here. So I do need a way to check what directions I can expand into. So I almost need I almost need like another attribute on grid points that, let me try and not overthink this as well, because I need to, basically any given tile will always need to know if it can expand in a direction, or if the tile next to it is occupied, or if there's a tile next to it. So I feel like what I can do here is add some attributes to the tiles as well. That would be, let me see if there's any attribute types that might jump out as a good way to do this. So like one way to do this would potentially be like the target here would be, what would I name this? Like expand up I would have this is expand down, and then I would have expand left, and expand right. Now, if I give all of these attributes to every tile that comes out of here, and when we first make the grid, I could go, let me see here. Here I would want to go attribute, get attribute from point index, and if the grid X, which is my left to right here, no, I don't necessarily know. Oh, well, I could go, hold on, this is, let me see, attribute partition, and we partition the index, right? So now this is just a stack of points that are all getting fed through here one at a time, I believe. And put in. Okay. Right, these are all index 0 now. And then, wait, there is some other pest house here, I think that's... There we go. Okay, I just need to get rid of that other one so I didn't see it here when trying to debug some stuff. So now I get the attribute grid X from point 0, and let me say this is 1, this is 2. If I come down here to, how many points wide is this? This was 31 or something. So if I come down here to 31, that's also 0.1. Okay, we're getting somewhere here. So what I need to do is each of these has an attribute for expanding, right? So if I just leave it as that, now any of these grid points that I pull later when I need them, let me go smart grid, there we go, now have these flags for whether or not they can expand left, right, up, or down. So now I can check those later, and if it's true, I can expand left, up, right, or down. Okay, so let's say, I don't know if expand up, left, right, and down, though, is like the verbiage I want to use. Let's say, free up, free left, free right, let's just try grow up. Let's leave it as expand. I can always change this later. Okay. So expand up, and then if our X value is equal to 1, then our expand left should be false. Oh, let's make these all true by default as well. That might also help here. So we've got true, 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 true. Now, if our leftmost point is, or if our grid x-axis is 1, then we want to say set attribute, and then we'll say that equals create attribute, and we'll change this to a Boolean, and it's going to be false. I think I just crashed. Oh. No crash, huge. None from pin in B is not supported as a Boolean. Okay, that's fine. This is going to be expand left. Maybe I should shrink this grid a little bit while I'm actively working on it, just so it's not doing this with as many points. Not that this is like way too many points or anything. It's just very obvious that this is not handling this well. Let's say 15, 15, a little bit better, a little more manageable. Okay, so oh, the input source get attribute grid X, so input expand left, got it. Grid X is 1, so input source, let's say compare equals create attribute. So if our input source, our grid value on the X is 1, which is true for our first point, and if I go to our second point, it's false, right? Because that would be right here. Let me also visualize these a little bit here. Right, that's a fucking terrible way to visualize that, goddamn. Okay, so grid X1 here is always going to be on the far left side. So those cannot ever expand to the left. That is as far left as a tile can expand. Then if we go to so if this attribute, which is our input source grid X, is equal to 1, then we should, let's say, set, and we'll say expand left, and that's going to be false. It's not supported by Boolean. Oh, should I just say oh god damn it, Unreal. Yeah, I know it's incorrect, please. Expand left from input is not a supported type Boolean. Okay. So input a expand underscore left. Let me also change this to index. Expand left should be true, but set expand left to do that, and then I'll rename this to expand. Weird. Let's say branch, or maybe select. Right, because this is actually what I should be doing. I need now a true and a false, right? And we go here and we go here. And now let's make this a Boolean. And then let's make this a Boolean. And this one's going to be true. So now, if our attribute grid x is equal to 1, which is true on our first loop here, and then false on every other one until we get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is that? This would be point 16 would be the next true point. Or is it point 15? Yeah, it's 15 because technically this is 0 in the array, but whatever. Okay, so that is doing what it's supposed to be doing. 0, okay. Now, too many items arriving on a single data pin. Use input B. Only first data item will be used. Oh, wait. This should just be set. What am I doing? This is way less complicated than I'm making it. Set expand left to this. Right? This feels psychotic. Why is this? Expand left from pin A is not a supported type. Okay. Okay. Let's say compare okay, so if this point comes in and we compare grid X to equal why? Okay. Oh. Oh, okay. I think I know how to do this. So this is actually adding an attribute called Boolean to this. So if I actually don't do this here, and instead of any of this logic, I go straight into here. Now, this is just named Boolean false, but if I say expand left, cool, and that's if grid X is equal to 1, and there's a couple trues that are in here. Which is a little odd. Oh, these are just being shown to me wrong order. True. And then what is this? Which point is that? I did not want to zoom in on that. 15, perfect. Okay. That's actually working. That's way more efficient as well, I think, just like structure-wise looking at that. So if it's 1, we don't expand. So that's okay. Now let's go. If our grid dot y is 1, then we should have an expand. Our expand down, if it's 1, or no, this should be expand. Oh, wait, what am I? This is, God, just fucking enough like brain dead logic to try and fucking get me all twisted here. Okay. Okay, so if this is not equal to 1, we can expand left, right? Because tile number 1 should never be able to expand left. Then if this is not equal to 1, we can expand up, which, let me see, expand left, and this should be expand up. So now everything in row 1 on the y-axis cannot, oh, this is expand down. God, it's like backwards still in my head. So everything in row 1 of grid Y, let me also feed this. Oh, God damn it, dude. Why is this required? There we go. Okay. Now, let me really quickly, I'm going to make a new little attribute visualizer here. Let's go like this. And go expand left. And oh, let's actually say select what do I need here? Or let's say compare I'm getting way too in my head about how to debug this in a way that actually makes sense. Let's just do prefix with attribute name, and then let's go like this and say expand left and go -50. Oh, that's not what I wanted. -100. And then let's go, we'll go green and we'll say expand right. And then we'll say that is going to be positive 100. And then we'll say expand up. And this will be positive 100. And we'll do red. And we'll do expand down, and this is going to be blue whatever, and we'll do negative 100. Okay, so why is that generating in such a weird directions? Okay, whatever. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, now let's go get the other ones of these working correctly. Okay, so now we need get width and not what I wanted. This should be expand right. Jesus, I cannot type right now, dude. And our expand right attribute. And this should be to do with my grid X. Okay. And this should be expand right. So if our grid on the X does not equal... Hello? Can I get my fucking debugs here? Why? I don't know why it does this sometimes. There we go. Jesus Christ, why is this so fucking impossible? 0. Let's just fucking go 0, 0. Great. And let's go 0, 50, 100, 150. Okay, so this point here can expand to the left, cannot expand to the right, cannot expand down, and now we need same kind of logic here, that it cannot expand up. And instead of width, we're going to use depth. And we'll use grid Y. And then here we'll use expand up. Okay. So this point can expand left, not right. It can expand up and not down. This point can expand left, right, up, but not down. Okay, if I come all the way over here, we can go left, right. We can go up and... Oh, left, we can't go left. We can go right. We can go up and we can't go down. Okay. God damn it, dude. PCG, please, bro. Just fucking keep fucking working. Right? We come... Any of these ones in the middle should just be totally fine. Yeah, they can all expand in all directions. Then here, we cannot expand to the left, we can't expand to the right, we cannot expand up, and we can't expand down. And the same thing should be true here. We can go left, can't go right, can't go up, we can go down. Okay. Great. So now every tile knows whether or not it can grow to the tile to the left or right of it. So we have picked. Let's say we have our point, which we've selected here. Let me also fucking Jesus Christ turn off all of these. Okay. We have our single point, and now this is maybe a better time to be visualizing these. Right? Where can this tile go? Can't go down, it can go up, it can go right, and it can go left. So now one, two, three. These need to be So if I have 4 different booleans, right? And now I want to only check the ones that are true. How do I do that? Because right now, if I create a random number off of this, 0 to 3, it'll be 0, 1, 2, or 3. That doesn't necessarily guarantee that one of those directions will actually be usable. That just kind of puts me in a situation where see, oh god damn it, dude. 150, 100, left, right, up, down, left, right, whatever. So what even is a way to do this, dude? We've made it so far, and I feel like I'm getting so close. How do we do this here? What are my options? My options, bro. Too many options. Maybe. Yeah, how exactly? I don't know why this is so hard for me to think through. If anyone's got any fucking brain power more than me right now to, I need to, I don't want to like make a whole subgraph that does this every time I need it, but I will need to do this every time I'm gonna expand tiles outward. So what do we have here? Oh, maybe this is kind of a weird way to look at this. Select, there's a switch. Oh, I wonder if I can just add them, right? Or, well, that doesn't work either, because if, oh God, dude, why is this so difficult? Okay, so I've got 4 Booleans. You can go up, down, left, or right. My first thought is that I generate a random number, 0, 1, 2, or 3, and I pick one of the options out of whatever was randomly generated. But that only works in a situation where it's like, oh, I can't go, like if I'm looking at my cardinal directions here, right? Like if I go, let me go, I have my tile here and I can expand it up, down, left, right. And green, let's just go clockwise here. We go 0, 1, 2, 3. If I determine that the point at the bottom here is not available to be expanded to, now I have a situation where I go 0, 1, there's no 2, and there's a 3. So I can't just generate a random number and then use that, because that would end up with a very strange, its own kind of strange problem. So, okay, let me keep some of these on screen and then try and just see what my other options are. So we have a switch, we have select multi. Oh, maybe it's multi-select. Maybe that's what I'm needing to do here, right? We go 1, 2, 3, 4. And we go attribute we go not or let me connect this really quick. So 1, 2, 3, or I guess let's say string selection expand direction. Determines which input will be selected if the selection mode is string. String options, here we have up, down, left, right. Now, there's each of those. Let me go like this. Okay. Get rid of that. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Now, I don't think this is how this actually is supposed to work. So expand up. True, true. Can't expand down. Now our output has nothing here. So this is only huh. It's like I need a little bit different logic here. I need to kind of switch the way I'm thinking about it. Which is to filter out things that cannot expand in a direction. Which, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense either. So if I say create attribute and I make this a Boolean, and we make this and that, and we make that, this is, God, why is this so difficult for me to fucking wrap my head around? I feel like I just need a subgraph here so I can stop looking at all this other shit. Okay, PCG, tiles, grid. Then we'll say, expand, let's say expand selection. Okay. And now let's say smart grid. And this is going to be points. I guess that still could be any. It doesn't really matter, but now let's make it points just for the sake of making this a little simpler. So we have our smart grid, and we now can do some stuff with that. So what do we do here? We compare equals, let's do, am I actually even looking for compare here? maybe there's another way to think about this. If I say add, can I just add booleans together? That would be really tight. I guess I can't just do that. Let's say expand up and expand down. From pin A is not a supported type. It's Boolean, right? Okay, maybe this is a better way to think of that about this problem, is make the points and then filter out the points that can be expanded. So if I say compare equal, and now I say expand up, I go, can I just say true here? I don't think I can, but okay. And let's make this a point. Okay, and this will be last. And then we say create. And this is Boolean true. We'll say branch and the output target should be Boolean. Huh. Was I not doing a similar like check out here in smart grid creation? I compare and it adds the attribute if it's true or not. Oh, but it keeps the point moving through, right? That's not like a, okay. How do I think about that? We go expand up, source, and we duplicate, and this can be 0, this can be 1, and we go like this, absolute, and we go Okay, so now, okay, it still duplicates even if it's false. Now that is annoying as fuck. I got like 20 more minutes of this. Oh, maybe I can use the filters. Maybe that's what I should be doing here. So if I say equals expand up, and this needs to be equal to Boolean true. Then here, we have 1 point coming in. But if I say it's false, no points coming in. There we go. Okay. So we do expand up. We do expand down. And then we do expand right. And expand left. Expand. It's true. True, true, true. Inside filter has 1 point going out. Okay. Perfect. So now, this is such a weird way to do this. I have my 4 points, or my 3 available points, right? If expand down here, if I could expand down, that point would be available to me, but I'm not able to expand down, so we remove that from here. And we now have 3 points. So let me think about this here. So if I let's go like this, maybe. We add attribute. And this is going to be a vector 2. And this is saying that we can expand up a tile, right? But this needs to be add. Okay, actually, we go add, and then we say oh, this is, I'm like so close to figuring this out, I think. So we add an attribute here. And then this attribute will be called expand direction. And then we add our grid position. And so our expand direction coming out of here. God damn it. We are 8 over here, and it can expand 2 up. Okay. Now, just connect that over there one moment. And we go in that, 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 that. Like that. And okay. And now the expand direction for down is going to be -1. Then the expand direction for right is going to be 1 on the X. And the expand direction for left is going to be -1 on the X. So now I have my expanded attributes. And we can go, these are all available directions I could expand to. So now I should go merged into 1, and now I should say select random, and inside selection, I have an expand direction X, Y, and Z. And if I go I don't even need that. I just need them to have, I didn't need to do the addition, I don't think, to what tile it needs to go to. I just need the actual direction. Right. That would make way more sense than this extra step I'm kind of doing here, which should just be like this. Let's get rid of these for now, but I'm going to keep them just in case I end up using them for something later. I don't think I will, but expand direction X and Y. Let me go here. So we've got expand direction X, 0, Y, 1, X, 1, Y, 0, -1, X, and Y, 0, which is exactly correct. We select one at random, and we should, instead of outputting that, let's go this is more like a instead of a point, this should be an attribute set, and here we should say get attribute from point index, and then this should go out, and this is going to be expand direction, and this is going to be called expand direction. Okay. Get rid of those. And I guess technically this should just be something like this, maybe. Okay, so we add an attribute expand direction here, and then I go set attribute, and then this is going to be, it's still a better way to do that. It's still a better way to do that than have like 3 other fucking things that I have to rename at some point that will end up causing problems. So set attribute, and then we'll go create vector 2, 1, and then we'll say set expand direction. Okay. Okay, and that's good. And this will be -1. This will be +1, -1. Okay. And that should have the same result. Yep, 3 total points made it through. And now I have a, so I select my door. Let's say let's rename this really quick to get all expandable directions. Say right, and then what I should be doing is something like that. So let's see here. I actually do just need to go valid expandable directions. Let's just say expand direction. And let's go point here, there. Okay. So now it's kind of wonky because I'm not necessarily getting the randomized version here, but I was thinking about some use cases where I don't actually want that to be random. I just need to get the tile, like if I'm in a loop graph and I need to check a bunch of tiles to see if they can expand in a direction and then make a decision based on that, I need this to be separate. So I just want a list of the available points that I can expand to. So what I should do here is as well, I should maybe make a little note to myself. Let's say smart grid. Let's say info. This is generally going to be used for expand direction. Okay. Now that I find really weird as well. If I wanted to use this, what do I actually, how do I feed this? Oh, maybe that's it. So, well, I still, fuck, the select random thing is really bumming me out for the points. It's probably better to just use the points for now. I don't actually need these points to be used for anything on the grid later, but it's probably good to do that. So we can go get expandable directions, select random, right? And then go, we pick one, and once we've picked one, we can take our point and we can now select grid coordinate okay. So just trying to think about this as well here is if I need to now, right, because this is getting the middle whatever, but I need to go smart grid and I feed that in, or you know what I need to do is make a selection, a range selector that uses select smart grid range. I feed in this, right? Then the range that I'm selecting here should be we'll say get attribute get point index, and we'll feed this into minimum, and this will be grid X. And then I need to get, oh man, this is getting a little convoluted, I would say, just to find the right order of events here. We take this guy and we use this as the max. Anita Maxween. So I have grid X here, or, oh, this is the expandable direction, but what I need is this point compare or add. Need to add God, this is so fucking wonky here. Okay, let me and this point, so I need grid.x and grid.x, and this is going to out. Oh, and this is not grid.x, this should be expand direction.x. Right, so that's zero, 1, and then let's say eight, 1, 0. So that needs to be one of these. This okay. And then we go add this, and this is going to be grid Y, expand direction Y, attribute, grid Y, or I guess this should just be last, and then this should be last, right? Because this should be, we add a grid X and expand direction X, which should output the max X, maybe, is 8, great. And this should be max Y. should be 2, which is correct. So now we go like this and like this. And like that. And like that. It's getting so convoluted right now. And this should be grid X, and then this should be right. Grid Y, minimum, and then maximum, and last, whatever, 2, 8, and this needs to be X, min and max, Y, one, 2, right, and then this doesn't actually need the rest of that grid, it just needs that chunk of it, because that's all of the available X tiles. Okay. So let me take all of this shit and let's just move it like back over there for now. So this, all of this, expands selection of a random direction by 1 tile. Okay, so now, even without looping this, I think that I can still do a, I can like, I don't want to kind of commit to trying to double all of this up right now, but I think I can go, right. Now, I guess one of the only other things that I would have to do here before this would continue to work for expanding stuff is I need to, after doing this, which is finding which direction I can expand into, selecting that tile, I then need to make sure that what direction I just expanded from disables the expansion on those tiles that just had it. So like when I select random here, and I have that point, what I should also be doing is compare equal, we'll say grid to grid, right? So if this grid equals this grid, and if it's not equal, oh, right. It's the smart grid tile. What I need to do here is something like I don't know if I have the brain power for this right now. I need to take a break and pack some stuff here. Yeah, this is kind of tricky. Let me see, just comment this really quick. Selects frontmost tile in the frontal center to expanding building from. Okay, then all of this here gets all possible expand directions given tile and returns those coordinates. So I think something I'm doing wrong here is in get expandable directions, I should actually be returning out the coordinates of the tiles that it's able to, or what tiles it would be able to expand to, because that should actually be used to, like, I should feed it the entire grid. Then this should go, okay, this tile, where can it expand to? Let's get the one above it, left, right, and below it. And then it should check all 4 of those coordinates against the coordinates from this grid. And if they exist and are not like a taken tile, those are possible expanding tiles, I think. I think that might be a better way to think about it than the way I've been thinking about it, which is like trying to do all this extra math and adding stuff around. This should return the chords of tiles of smart grids around it and verify with master smart grid if they are valid / available. Okay. All right, I gotta get going. Hope you all have a beautiful time. And I'll see you in 40 years or something like that.